Let me guess, you didn't start your business so you could spend your days copying and pasting, chasing follow-ups, or trying to remember which lead you actually already emailed. And yet here we are. Today's episode is about how AI can give you your time back without turning your business into a soulless robot factory. Because the real opportunity with AI is not about posting more, it's about working less and trusting more.
Welcome to Rocky Mountain Marketing. I'm your host, Katie Brinkley. Join us as we dive deep with the world's leading digital marketing experts every single Tuesday. It's all about giving you the strategies that are working right now, directly from those who are making an impact. With my 20 years of experience, I'm here to help you navigate the world of digital marketing. Whether you're looking to sharpen your skills or transform your business, you're in the right place. Let's get started on today's journey to success.
Welcome back to this week's episode of Rocky Mountain Marketing. If you're an entrepreneur, creator, small business owner who wants smarter marketing that's actually leading to revenue, not just noise, you are in the right place, because today's conversation is one I've been genuinely excited about for a while now, because we're not talking about AI hacks in today's episode. We're not talking about prompts that crank out more content faster. We are talking about how AI can remove the busy work that's quietly draining your energy so that you can focus on the one thing it will never replace: human trust. Today, my guest is Mike Allton. Mike is the director of partner-led growth at Agorapulse and the founder of the AI Hat. He works with revenue leaders and solopreneurs to design what he calls revenue architecture. So AI systems that don't just automate tasks, but liberate us as human beings. His belief about AI in 2026 stopped me in my tracks. And that's what we're going to talk about today, because the real ROI of AI isn't scale. It is time, giving you your time back. So let's get into it. Mike, thank you so much for joining me on Rocky Mountain Marketing today.
It's my absolute pleasure to be back on the show with you, Katie. Thanks so much for having me. I can't wait to dive into this with you.
Yeah, well, and I want to start with why this conversation matters. You know, I feel like I actually was looking at my Riverside put together kind of this wrapped compilation of 2025, kind of like a Spotify Wrapped. Apparently, the number one word I used the most this year was AI, followed by which
Figure.
is not the best thing but it was AI. And it's on all of our minds. It's what we're all talking about. And I wanted to talk about something that you said when we spoke earlier, was about the 70% admin drag. And it exists in most business. So when I read that, I immediately Googled, what does this mean? I need to know more and how it relates to my audience. And what I found was that founders who are doing sales, marketing, follow-ups, onboarding, content, client delivery, they're doing all of it all at once. So when you say 70% admin drag, what are we really talking about?
Well, we're talking about activities that every single person in every business is doing, regardless of your role, regardless of your experience and seniority, whether you're brand new or you founded the business. There are things that you're doing, like you said at the very outset, that have very little to do with why you got into business in the first place. Maybe you love building websites and web experiences for clients, and yet you still find yourself editing spreadsheets and dragging reports back and forth and copying and paste email templates and things that have nothing to do with the actual work that brings you joy, that brings you revenue. It's somewhat necessary. It's administrative. That's why we call it an admin tax. We feel like it's necessary operations to keep the business going, but it's not actually driving revenue. It's not having an impact on the business. It's the kind of thing that, quite frankly, if we're honest with ourselves, anybody could do this. It's just falling to us because we feel like it has to be done. And by us, again, I mean anybody, whether you're a founder or a junior marketer, it doesn't really matter. We all have this. Now, statistically, it's going to vary, but there have been a lot of surveys, and that's where that 70% comes from. On average, it feels like most of our time is spent scheduling meetings and sending meeting follow-ups and setting meeting reminders and all these kinds of things that we have to do, we think, to keep our focus on and our drive behind the things that we actually need to do in our business. And this is where I hope and I think AI can solve a lot of problems.
Why do you think that so many entrepreneurs assume that their problem is visibility or content when it's really time and energy?
It's one of those things where it's hard to see it because it's not as tangible. Like I give folks this exercise where I tell them to write down every single thing that they're doing for at least 3 whole days, maybe a week or 2, depending on your business day. If it's very repetitive, then 2 or 3 days is fine. If every day feels like a different day for you, well, then you might need to do this exercise for 2 or 3 weeks, because you will be shocked when you actually see on paper, oh my gosh, that's actually how I spent my day yesterday. Because the little things don't stand out in our mind. I don't want to get too psychological, but our minds are designed to weed out and just kind of remove the mundane. Like, you all are listening to me right now, and you're not paying attention to the color of my vest, because even if you're watching on video, that's not the most prominent thing. That's not the most important thing. Your brain has already told you, focus on the speaker's face, his body language, his tone of voice. Those are the things that might cause a fight or flight if we're going to get super, super basic about our mentality. And our brain automatically just filters out stuff like the sky's still blue. You don't have to look. Your brain just knows that. Your eyes can see the color spectrum if you're facing a window, but that's filtered out. Just like the fact that you spent an hour yesterday replying to emails, that's filtered out. That's not important to our brains. What's important is yesterday you had one client call that resulted in a lucrative proposal that you're looking forward to Q1. If you were to ask me what happened to you yesterday, that's the thing that will stick out in your mind. But that was 45 minutes of your day. What happened to the rest of your 7, 8, 10, 12-hour day? What were you doing? A lot of that admin stuff. That's what makes it so hard to just even know that these things are going on. In fact, you mentioned I work for Agorapulse. Our CEO, Emmerich, has become obsessed with time tracking. He actually used Lovable as an app, right, where you could vibe code. He used Lovable to create a time tracker that will actually prompt you at 15-minute intervals to record, what were you doing? Are you still working on the task you were before? Have you switched gears? It's to help bring that visibility front and center to our Cro-Magnon brains. This is how you're actually spending your time. You actually spent an hour and 15 minutes this morning on TikTok. Oops. That
Yeah.
was not productive time. I probably should have done something else with that time.
One thing I really appreciate about you, Mike, is what you're doing with AI. The way you position it is not to replace the human. You position it as protect the human. I think that that's really important, because who would have thought, like 3 years ago, remember still to this day, like being approached by some people that had AI and saying like, hey, we have this new AI tool. And I was like, I don't need AI to help me. That's silly. So I think that we've changed so much in just the past 3 years. And I'm really excited, a little nervous to see what's going to happen in 2026 with AI. Let's address it head on, because a lot of business owners who are listening right now are thinking, if I use too much AI or if I automate too much, won't I lose that personal touch?
You're exactly right in that 2 or 3 years ago, the best use cases anybody could imagine for AI at the time was writing some ad copy, right? Or generating an email, or, repurposing a long form piece of content into a social media post, that all of which was mediocre, by the way. And so the threat then was, wow, it's just going to do a lot of the same stuff that I'm already doing, right? Well, we've
Mhm.
evolved. AI has evolved. We've evolved professionally. And the reality today is that you can rely on generative AI tools, either the frontier LLMs like Gemini and so on, or, actual purpose-built tools to do a lot of the things that we were doing before. Things that, again, like I said before, anybody could do. Anybody in your organization can move an Excel spreadsheet from a desktop to a Google Drive folder. Anybody can import a CSV file into that spreadsheet. That doesn't require your level of experience and wisdom. So what we're really talking about is, how do we determine what out of all the things that we do can we potentially ask AI to do for us, or at least do some of it for us, so then we can free up our time to do something else. That's the unlock that I've been pushing people to think about for the last year or two. What else can I do with my time? If I free up an amazing 70% of my time, what else will I do? And one of the really interesting phenomenon as humans is that it's a challenge for us to even imagine what we would do with that much time, because we've never had it. We've never been given the freedom to just, hey, you know what, Katie, spend the next week dreaming what you might accomplish next year if I gave you an extra 20 hours a week. Who's got that kind of time? Nobody.
Mhm.
So it's hard. It's really hard. And I understand then where the fear comes, because like all things, fear comes from the unknown. We don't know yet what AI is going to be able to accomplish a year from now. Many people still today don't know what AI can do today. It's still a bit of a learning curve for many, many, many people. And there's that huge unknown of, what would we do with my time?
Yeah.
How could I reimagine my role, my business, my team, my department, if all of a sudden myself or my entire team, we all had 10, 20, 50% more hours in the day freed up to focus on something that really, really matters. Now, here's where it helps to talk to folks like you and I who've been thinking this through, right? We can easily say, hey, one of the most important things you could be doing is talking to people. AI can't do that on behalf of you or your brand. Talk to your prospects, talk to your customers, talk to your employees, talk to your partners. Have those conversations. Allow AI to free you up to have more strategic in-person and online conversations like this for a start.
I think that's one of the big distinctions, right? And I really resonate with it, of AI being that assistant, not the face of the relationship. Now more than ever, I feel like podcasting, live video, YouTube channels, this is what people are really going to be craving in 2026. That's my crystal ball, because AI has evolved so much and it's hard to tell what's real, what's not, what was written by AI, what's a Sora video. And these relationships, these conversations, that's what's really going to help. That's one of the best ways to fill some of this open time is with the relationships. And what I see happening online is people using AI just to continue speaking for them. It's, at least we've gotten better with the emojis. We can all agree on that with the social copy. The emojis and the attention entrepreneurs type of posts have faded away because people have gotten better with it. But that's why people online are starting to feel disconnected, and social media is shifting. We just recently saw a huge announcement from Facebook with links, and they want to keep the conversation on platform. And why do they want to do that? It's a lot harder for AI to come in and have conversations. So let's get specific with this. So if someone's listening and thinking, okay, Katie, okay, Mike, I'm open to this. I'd love to have more time back. Where do I even start? What are the first areas in sales and marketing where AI should be deployed?
Well, you can start at a very high level, which is to do a self-audit. Like I talked about a second ago, get a piece of paper, write down every single thing that you do over several days or a week or so. And then after you do that, and by the way, as you're doing it, no judgment. Don't start trying to fix things. Just be a diligent note taker and write down. But then afterwards, go back and review. Okay, I need to put these into different categories. Categories like, this was administrative and had no revenue value. This was a very high impact, very high revenue driven activity, like talking to a prospect, right? Something like that. That's going to help you immensely. See, everything in that admin low revenue value bucket is something that I should ask. Can AI do this? And one of the cool things is you can ask AI if it can do that, right? Ask Perplexity, ask Gemini, ask ChatGPT. Hey, I've got a report that I run every single week. It's an Excel spreadsheet. I have to import the numbers, and then I have to think about it and come up with a summary for my team. Is that something AI can help me with? Because if you don't know the answer, that's okay. You don't know. But AI is going to come back and say, absolutely, drop that spreadsheet into the chat and let's take it away. So that's the first thing you can do. Second thing then is to start thinking about by role. So if you're in sales or marketing, there are certain things that you're doing on a weekly basis, depending on where within sales and marketing you are. So if a BDR, you're spending a lot of time on LinkedIn looking at individual personal profiles and trying to figure out, okay, is this first of all the person that we should be speaking at this organization? Are they even active on LinkedIn? If they are, what have they talked about lately? Is there a cue in their recent posts that might be something we could talk about, a conversation spark that's related to what we offer as a business? What's the brand that they work for? What's the team structure like? I mean, there's just countless things that a BDR is looking at from a LinkedIn profile before they actually take the step of doing the outreach. They might spend an hour or two poring over someone's LinkedIn or moving on to the next person or the next person in the organization, all of which could be done by an AI. Right? You can turn an AI loose on someone's LinkedIn profile and have it come back to you within seconds. Yeah, Katie, this is the person you need to speak to at this organization. And by the way, I went ahead and researched the organization. This was their revenue last year. This was their headcount last year. This is what they reported. I mean, you can get this really
And I put it all into a
comprehensive.
spreadsheet for you.
Yeah, and I put it all into a spreadsheet for you, or I did an audio overview, whatever you needed. And then that enables you to take that and provide a customized, personalized, warm, authentic outreach email or direct message on LinkedIn that's going to be received so much better than what you probably could have done before. So it's not only faster, frankly, it's probably better than what you were doing before. And I could, go through this exercise with every single role in the entire revenue team. This is why we talk about revenue architecture, right? We talk about figuring out across the entire team, what are the different things that people need to do? What are the different things that they could potentially get AI to help them with? And how do we approach that in a way that is efficient, is going to help the individual, it's going to help the organization, it's not going to make somebody feel like they're being replaced by AI. We want them to feel like it's augmenting them. And the other thing we want to do is make sure that they have actual guidance and oversight from the team. We don't want what's called shadow AI happening where people are just using tools on their own.
And I love everything you just shared because I hope that people listening right now are like, man, I didn't even think of that. Because I think a lot of people are still stuck in the mode of content creation, of creating more social posts. But this is actual revenue support. This is such an important reframe because I think most listeners right here, they don't need more ideas. They understand that AI, I've been talking about it all year, obviously, on the podcast, that AI is an important tool. They need to start using it, but they need fewer tabs open in their brain. And what I hear you saying with all of this is that AI should be handling the things that don't require the emotional intelligence. And that's where the human can show up fully, where it matters is on the human side.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. We want to get away from using AI once to rewrite some email sequences or just to create email sequences because maybe we didn't have them. And we want to move to a point where AI is now, as you said, a partner, a colleague, actually filling a seat and a role in the organization. In the case of the BDR, now you have a research assistant. That's a seat in the organization. The new revenue team org chart is human and AI filling seats side by side and allowing those humans, you said, to focus on the most important stuff, the emotional work.
Now, you used the term revenue architecture, and I want to unpack that a little bit because it sounds really big, but it's incredibly practical, right? So let's just talk about what revenue architecture is and how it's different from just using AI tools. So what does that look like in practice?
Yeah, so to just break this down into really basic terms and philosophies, the idea here is we want to make sure that we're using AI in a way that can actually help you as a revenue team, whether you're sales, marketing, partnerships like me, fill your quota. That's at the end of the day, what's most important to us. Almost all of us in these roles have a quota of some kind, whether it's actual leads and sales, or maybe it's, MQLs that we're trying to hit for the month or the quarter. We all have some quota, some milestone, some OKR that we're trying to hit. How do we get AI to help us hit those targets? And it's not by the one-time generation. It's by, like we've been talking about this whole time, identifying the tasks that we have to do on a regular basis and either bringing AI alongside and it's part of that process, or we're actually just outsourcing to AI. And so this is where the architecture comes in, because we have to build often processes. The first problem with most businesses is they don't have documented processes. So that's got to be resolved. But then the second issue and the challenge or opportunity, depending on your point of view, is that if you have an existing process, maybe you just built it for this purpose, but you've got a process that's all 100% human.
Mm.
Now we have to decide, where can we inject AI? Most of the time today, this won't be true tomorrow. We're recording this late 2025, right? But 2026, things are going to continue to change. But as of right now, there's very little that we could simply hand off to AI 100%. There are very few things that I would recommend, particularly in a revenue structure, that we say, you know what, let's just have AI do this completely autonomously. Nobody ever needs to check on this ever again. It will be perfect forever. I can't think of any examples off the top of my head. We need to have that human in the loop. And so that's why we need to architect a process where, okay, a human initiates it, and then we hand it off to AI, and AI does some things, and maybe there's some back and forth. Maybe it's just AI is doing everything, and there's a human at the beginning and the end. Just depends on the process. But there's a bit of architecting that has to happen to make sure that that's going to result in an output and an outcome that benefits the organization.
And this is where I want to slow this down for the listener, because this isn't about buying 5 new tools.
Yeah,
It's
right.
And because I think that can be kind of the sexy thing, like, this new tool does this, and then this tool does it. And this is about strategy. It's about mapping how revenue actually flows through your business, from first touch to conversation to close to retention. And then asking, where am I the bottleneck? Where am I doing things manually that don't need my brain? That's the work.
Yeah. So, for instance, if you are doing most of the sales in your organization, you're either part of the sales team or maybe you're the owner who's doing sales. And that means that you're doing discovery calls with prospects. And after the call, you need to send them a proposal. Well, a year or two ago, how long did that take you? You'd have a 45-minute call, but that's not the end of the task for you, Mr. and Mrs. Salesperson, right? You have to now sit down and either open a document or open an email, depending on your process, and think about, okay, what did we talk about? Let me look at my notes. Oh, yeah, this is what we're offering. This is the special we're running. This is what applies to them. And you might spend anywhere from 30 minutes to 3 hours putting together a proposal for that one individual client. But imagine, what if you had a proposal assistant, an AI, and this would be any LLM, not a bespoke tool. You could go into Gemini or ChatGPT, your proposal assistant's all worked up. You drop the transcript of the call, because we're all recording our calls now. It's
Yeah.
2026. You drop the transcript of your call into the proposal assistant, which has been trained on your products and services, your tone of voice, your best, most winningest, highest revenue proposals ever. It knows what a winning proposal looks like, and it looks at the transcript in a way that no human salesperson ever would, because, and I've done this, when we're on a call with somebody, we're paying attention to what they say, and we're trying to write down notes, and we're trying to think of what we want to say in response. And particularly if we're in sales, and let's be honest here, we are thinking about where to guide them so that they put their name on the line, which is dotted. So it's hard sometimes to be fully aware of everything that somebody says on a call. And that's a little bit of a risk in a sales call, because the prospect might say something while you were taking down a note. And that one thing that they just happen to mention is the actual pain point that's going to drive their buying decision, but you missed it. But it's in the transcript. And when you give it to AI, it will not miss it. It will flawlessly capture every single thing that they say, and it will parrot it back to them in the proposal flawlessly and make sure that every single one of their objections is taken care of. That's something that every salesperson can do, or every business owner, if you're handling the sales calls, is create that kind of an assistant for yourself. But it requires identifying, okay, like you said, Katie, that's where I'm the bottleneck. I do the sales call, and then I got to spend 45 to 60 minutes creating the proposal. And if I have back to back to back sales calls, I might not get those proposals out the door until the next day, later next week. That's a problem. That's a big problem. And AI can help you with that.
So I want to talk about this phrase that we said earlier in the episode, because I think it is the heart of the episode, which is the reparation of time. When business owners hear ROI, oftentimes, most of the time, we think money. Show me the money. But you're saying time is the real return. So explain that.
Yeah. So when we're thinking about how we're going to adopt AI into these processes, it is a little bit of a challenge because, first of all, you have to have the existing process. You have to identify what it is we're talking about. And I'm using process as a big word. It's just, what is it that you do today? And how do you do it? That's your process. And the question mark that a lot of businesses don't know is, how long does it take you or your staff to do X, whatever that process is? So you have to have that figured out. And that's hard. I understand. But if you know that, even if it's rough, if you know that, then once you start to apply AI to areas of that process like we've been talking about, then you can get to a point where you can measure the new improved process. Now, with AI, this process now takes me X minutes instead of an hour or two. I've been doing this cohort teaching marketers, a bunch of European product marketers for a big company over in Europe. And we've been going through this 5-week cohort. It's been fascinating. And just this morning, before we recorded this episode, they had to give their capstone presentations. They had to pick a project, a process that they do, and they had to map out, here's the before, all the steps, 1, 2, 20 steps, whatever it was. And now here's the new process with AI in the mix. And they just kind of put an H or an A behind every single step in that task. Does AI do this or does a human do this? And the most important part was, what happened next? What was the result? Every single one of them, it was about time savings, of course, because that's the easy one. But the other thing that I want to challenge everyone to think about is, what else changed as a result of applying AI to that particular process? Is it more consistent now? Are you getting fewer errors? Are the results actually better than they were before? And how do you measure that? Is it quantitative? Is it qualitative? These are the really powerful things that together then become the true ROI of any kind of AI adoption. And again, it's not easy. I'm not here to tell you, you guys are going to be able to ship AI to all of your staff tomorrow and see 100% ROI. No, you won't. And that's why we see in the news things like 95% of AI pilots fail and that sort of thing, because too many companies entered it with the wrong mindset. They thought they could simply pass out licenses to Copilot and instantly get 10x ROI on a $20 a month subscription. It doesn't work that way. You have to invest the time into thinking through. The best way to think about this is change management. Some of you listening, maybe have never really thought about what change management is or how it applies to you and your role or your entire business. But that's what we're really talking about here, is change management. This is a new technology, and it's requiring that we change the way that we do business for good, but it requires a change. And that requires some thought and some due diligence into measuring what we were doing before and measuring how we're going to do things now.
Well, and I think that, Mike, with what you're saying, I know from my business, my best ideas did not come when I was busy and I was deep in the weeds. It came when I had space, when I had the time. And I think that so many business owners have lost that space because now I need to do this and now I need to do that and I want to advertise here so if AI can give us that back, that's not you being lazy. And I think that some people might be like, oh, well, if I have AI do it, it's just now that me like checking out. It's you being strategic. And one thing I talk a lot about on this podcast is that trust first marketing. And I don't think that goes away with this AI heavy world that we're starting to really get into. I think that it becomes more important. Well, let's connect the dots. How does using AI actually increase trust instead of eroding it?
I want to share a story from about 8 years ago. I was at Content Marketing World. And for folks listening, Content Marketing World, they often bring in like really big, well-known celebrities to be one of the keynotes. And back then it was John Cleese. You don't know John Cleese, well-known actor, part of the Monty Python troupe of actors back in the day. I'm a huge fan of John Cleese. I love John Cleese. And yet I went into that keynote and I sat next to Chris Penn and was thinking, what is John Cleese going to say to a room full of marketers? And in fact, he got up and the first thing he said was, so you're all content marketeers? What is a content marketer? And so right off the bat, I'm thinking, oh, this is going to be funny, yet not helpful. But then he told a story about how one day he was working with Graham Chapman, one of the partners and founders of the troupe, on a script for a new skit that they wanted to put on. And they'd spent all day honing the jokes, the timing, everything that everybody was going to say. And they were working at some kind of house in Sussex or something like that. And they went to dinner and they came back. And strangely, John had lost the script. He'd misplaced it. No idea what happened to it. It was gone. And Graham was furious. I mean, out of his mind, would not speak to John the rest of the day. Like we just wasted a whole day, right, working on this thing. And John was just beside himself. He went out for a walk, slept over on it, what little sleep he could get. And the next morning he got up early and decided, you know what, I'm going to just try to recreate as much of that script as I can from memory. So he starts writing and writing. And this was, a couple decades ago. There's no word processors back then. This was all handwritten stuff, right? So he's writing and writing and writing, and he finally finishes it, and he hands it to Graham, and he just sits quietly while Graham reads it. And Graham finishes it and says, John, this is better than the first one that we wrote. And it sparked this idea in John that he went on to just think about, ruminate on for years. He eventually wrote about it, where he believes that in our minds, we have something he calls it the tortoise brain. And it's where when we give ourselves space to think, we actually can be more creative, more inspired, and come up with all kinds of solutions to problems we didn't even know we had. Now, not sitting for 5 minutes, because for 5 minutes, your brain's just going to run over everything that you're supposed to do the rest of the day, right? You get that out of your system, and then your tortoise brain really goes to work. It might come up with a problem that you've been wrestling with and didn't even realize you were wrestling with it for weeks, or it might, as you pointed out, spark some brand new ideas of where you want to take your business in the coming year. That's the kind of thing that I believe AI can give us the freedom to actually do, the freedom to have time in our work day, not evenings or on long drives or trying, while we're taking a commute into work, but during the day, it is going to be okay for you to just sit and think. And when you do that, you're going to be able to come into your work with fresh perspectives, energized, truly authentic. And I think that's where a little bit of that trust is going to come in, because I don't think it's much of a stretch to think that when we're talking to someone who is stressed and burned out and on their last leg, they're probably not the best person to work with. Whereas you get somebody on a Zoom call and they're smiling and they're happy to see you and they're excited and they can't wait to share their ideas with you, and you can't wait to listen and share your ideas with them, that creates an atmosphere that I think, we'll see what you think, Katie, but I think that engenders more trust than ever.
Yes, I'm so glad that you were my last guest of 2025 here, Mike. This is such a great episode. So as we wrap this episode up, there's one mindset shift you want the listeners of today's episode to walk away with after this conversation, what is it?
Using AI is not cheating. So if you're a individual contributor, solopreneur, founder, by all means, figure out ways that you can use AI to save yourself time and free yourself up. But if you are an owner, a team leader, a manager, a director, you have direct reports, understand that they're using AI today, whether you realize it or not. Some better than others. Some might have just opened up Perplexity for the first time. Some may be secretly using their own personal ChatGPT account. You need to endorse and encourage that AI behavior. You need to talk to them. You need to talk to your team, talk to your management if you need to, come up with policies and procedures and some budget. This is not expensive stuff, folks. You all can afford $20 a month per seat for a tool that's going to revolutionize your entire business. Lean into that. Lean into what we're calling the shadow AI. It's not cheating. Encourage it.
I love that so much. Mike, if people want to learn more from you, you have a great podcast yourself, which I've been honored to be a guest on. Where can people see more things Mike Allton and listen to your show? Tell us where to find you online.
Well, thanks, Katie. And I appreciate all of you spending this time with us. If you want to learn more with me or connect with me, just go to theaihat.com/connect. You'll find my social profiles are there. So I'm on all of them because, I've been in this business for a long time. So whichever social profile happens to be your flavor of the month, connect with me there, or you can follow the podcast there.
Amazing. If this episode made you rethink about how you're using your time, I want you to take one action today. Audit where your energy is going, not your content, not your reach, your energy. And ask yourself, what would my business look like if I protected my time as fiercely as I protect my revenue? Again, if you want to learn more from Mike, check out the AI Hat and his work. And if this episode resonated with you, share it with another business owner who is drowning in the busy work, because none of us need more to do. We need more space to do what matters. Mike, thank you again so much for joining me on Rocky Mountain Marketing.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for listening to this week's episode of Rocky Mountain Marketing. I hope you're leaving with valuable insights and the inspiration to lead your market. If you've enjoyed our time together and found today's podcast episode useful, I have a small favor to ask of you. Please hit that subscribe button to stay updated with the latest episodes. And if you know someone who could benefit from these episodes, maybe a fellow business leader or an aspiring entrepreneur, go ahead and share this episode with them. Let's spread the knowledge and grow together. Also, I'd love to hear from you and continue the conversation beyond the podcast. Visit me at katiebrinkley.com to connect, to find more resources, or just to share your journey. And be sure to pick up your copy of my new book, The Social Shift, at katiebrinkley.com/book. Thanks again for tuning in. I'm Katie Brinkley, and I can't wait to dive into more strategies and stories with you on the next episode of Rocky Mountain Marketing. Let's keep on taking your marketing to new heights.